Welcome to another class on driving vocabulary, or words that are loosely connected to driving, because some of these are perhaps not they're not only about driving. Quite often I throw one or two other expressions in there because I know that it's good to learn a variety of expressions at the same time. So I try to repeat a lot of the stuff, guys. I don't know if you've noticed this, but there are some recurrent themes and some words which crop up again and again and again. Crop up just means appear, yeah? It's when a topic appears rather than something physical, rather than something sprouting up in front of you. Sprout up's very physical. But if you overtake somebody in a car, it means, or on anything else actually, you can overtake somebody when you're walking as well, or when you're running, or when you're on your bike. But when you overtake somebody, you go in front of the vehicle in front of you. You go faster than them and you overtake them. Yeah, that means that's overtake. And so one thing that is prohibited, because it's dangerous, is overtaking on a hill or a bend. Usually you'll see some kind of road sign that lets you know. I mean, in England, I think it's a black car and a red car. I'm not sure about that. I told you I don't drive. But it's a sign. There's very often a sign which tells you not to overtake because it's dangerous on a hill or a bend. If you overtake on a hill, when you're going up the hill, you might not see that somebody is going to crash into you when they come over the hill and they're coming from the other direction. In other words, you can't see the oncoming traffic when you're going up a hill or when you're going round a sharp bend. You can't see the oncoming traffic. You're blind to any traffic that might be just around the bend or just over the hill. And for that reason, it's prohibited, or usually it is. It does depend on how high the hill is or how sharp the bend is. So do learn those words as well. Bend, a bend in the road, and a hill. So oncoming traffic means the traffic coming towards you. And of course, if you don't see the oncoming traffic, you might crash into the oncoming traffic, collide into it, plow into it. Career we'll talk about in a second, or pile into it. You can even say pile into it. So you might pile into the oncoming traffic. You might crash into the cars that are coming towards you. And if you do, then you have a head-on collision. That's a compound adjective, so it needs a hyphen. So if you do, you have a head-on collision when you hit the oncoming traffic. When two cars hit head-on, when they're facing each other and they hit. So they don't always crash like that. You might crash into the side of another car, something like that. You might veer into another car if you lose control of the car. So a head-on collision is like that. Now you might crash because you get put off, and this means get distracted. So get put off by something. Maybe the kids are playing in the back of the car, they're arguing, they're bickering, and then they start fighting, and they put you off, and that's why you crashed. Yeah, so don't get put off, especially not with the kids in the back of the car. Don't get distracted. Don't get distracted by what's going on behind you or what's going on out the window. Yeah, and so I think a lot of drivers sometimes get distracted, they get put off. So put something off means delay. We've seen this in another class. If you want to put off the meeting, it means make the meeting later. But put somebody off can mean distract somebody. Yeah, so the children put me off when I was driving and we had an accident. Or it can also mean cause you to dislike. So you might say something like, the smell of smoke. Yeah, you might not like smoking, and you might say, oh, the smell of smoke always puts me off my food, or even puts me off eating. Yeah, and so that has a number of different meanings, put off. Now, if you look out for something or watch out for something, for example, watch out for potential hazards. And of course, you must, as a driver, you need to look out for potential hazards. It means keep an eye out for potential hazards. Be on the lookout for dangers. Be on the lookout for a hazard, something that might cause a problem or that you need to be aware of because it is potentially dangerous if you're not paying attention to it. Yeah, and so you keep a lookout for potential hazards. I think that's clear. And you could say watch out for. And remember, we learned be on the lookout for something. So be on the lookout for potential hazards around you. I don't know, cyclists. I mean, I would imagine if I were a driver that a cyclist would be a potential hazard. Now, of course, you mustn't drive if you are under the influence of alcohol or under the influence of illicit substances. I put that on because you know that it has come up already. It has cropped up in another lesson. But remember this, under the influence of, because we even say he has been charged with driving under the influence. Yeah, he has been arrested for driving under the influence. He's been charged with driving under the influence. So it's a very good expression to learn. Now, if you get pulled over, again, we did in the last class, pull somebody over. The policeman pulls you over. So this is just a passive form, kind of like passive anyway, when we use get to form passive. So if you get pulled over, you are pulled over by the policeman. Yeah, you get pulled over by the policeman. And he might breathalyze you, or he might make you take a breathalyzer test. And you breathe into the piece of equipment, and it tells the policeman if you have been drinking or not. And if you have, he will charge you with drink driving. Yeah. And you might then be facing a 2-year driving ban. We did this word in another class. Yeah, a 2-year driving ban. Or if you've done something really terrible and you've been driving under the influence and then you have crashed into somebody, you have run somebody over, you've knocked that person down and they're dead. Yeah, I know it's going to get dramatic today. Manslaughter is the name of that crime. Now, I think I forgot to include that word in the crime and punishment lessons, so please learn it. It's the same as murder, but it's not the same, because you kill somebody with manslaughter, but it was unintentional. And of course, if you're drinking and driving, you're doing something very irresponsible. That's certainly the case. Unintentional. I don't know what I'm doing here, guys. 1 second. Unintentional. Now, of course, it's unintentional in that you didn't want to kill this person, but still you killed them, and it was your irresponsibility that caused it. It was the fact that you were driving under the influence, and so you might be charged with manslaughter then, as well as driving under the influence, and that's unintentionally killing someone. And then you're probably going to get a prison sentence, yeah, or a custodial sentence, although who knows, you might get let off, and that's a way of saying you might not be punished with a prison sentence. You might get a much more lenient sentence. Remember that lenient that we saw in another class as well. Now, if you come to a halt, you stop. To halt is to stop. So come to a stop or come to a halt. They both mean stop.